My laptop won't recognize my camera. Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good
It's
morning.
Rick and Lee with the Freedom System. How you doing, Lee?
I'm doing awesome, man. I'm yeah, just hanging in there. It sounds like you had kind of an eventful weekend.
Oh, we both did, man. We both did. But hey, cool. For all the drama and all the stuff that gets thrown at you, there's always something to celebrate, right? So I'm
Right.
celebrating the fact my father-in-law took me skydiving. Got to spend a little time up in Estes Park, Rocky Mountain National Park, with my family on Saturday. Got some great work done Friday. Look into our Facebook group. Go to TheFreedomSystem.live for a copy of my pre-listing package. If you want to copy that and personalize it to yourself, you can do that. But spent about, I don't know, long time Friday night working on that, and non-productive, non-dollar producing hours. So there's always something to celebrate, Lee. What are you celebrating? You sent me some amazing pictures over the weekend.
Yeah, it was, we had some fun. On Friday night, I went down with a couple friends and climbed Mount Hood on Saturday morning, which is something that never gets old. I think I've done it, I don't know, 10 or 15 times now. I don't know how many times, but I've been up there quite a bit, and I've gotten to know the mountain really kind of pretty intimately, and it's just beautiful. It's always amazing. We had perfect weather. We got up at 2 a.m. on Saturday, left the car about 2:30 or something, and we were on the top at about 8:45 maybe. And it was so nice up there. We were on the summit for almost an hour, just kind of hanging out, talking to people, and that was great. So just really fun people that I was with, and just one of the most beautiful places, the highest point in Oregon State.
Yeah.
Uh, and then
And
I left.
for those of you not familiar, in January, it's covered in snow.
Yeah, it's all snow, all snow. So
All snow all the time.
yeah, so I brought skis, and I left my skis at about 9,500 feet, and then I skied down from there, which was uh some of it was awesome, and some of it was awful because it was like so icy. So it's definitely kind of survival skiing, but it was really fun anyway. So
Like balled up balls of snow frozen into ice, where
oh,
they
like
dust
full
cookies.
on, no, no, like blue ice, like
Oh,
just
blue
picture
ice.
like ice in your cooler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and like making turns on that.
Bulletproof.
Absolute bulletproof. And if you fell, it really, really hurt. So yeah, so it was definitely the first probably like 300 feet, vertical feet, after I put my skis on, were loud and not very fun. And then as you got further down, things warmed up a little bit, and it was better conditions. And but by the time I got back to Timberline Lodge, which is kind of where you start, or like where the car is, it was a lot better.
So folks might be wondering, like, hey, nice to hear you guys catch up, but where's the real estate coaching? So we'll get to that. So first of all, part of the real estate coaching is no matter what life is throwing at you, you can still carve out time to compartmentalize, get yourself in a zone, and get something productive done, right? So like Friday night, um, I it's all sorts of weird stuff happening, but I just kind of dialed into my laptop and said, okay, I've got a listing I'm chasing right now. It's $1.5 million. It's a FISBO, $45,000 commission on the line, and so I'm going to dial in. Like, I'm going to do what I don't want to do when I don't want to do it at the highest possible level. And I drilled in on my pre-listing package because I realized what I had said to that client. He was now having to convey to 4 other family members in a trust that hold the property. And I was there for a long time. I was pitching, I was bonding, I was doing all this stuff. And I realized he could never, never in a million years remember my passion, my skill, and everything that I do for a client. And so here I am Friday night. My family's watching a movie, and I said, "Hey, look, I've seen this movie like 14 times. All of you with kids understand that. And as much as I want to snuggle with my kids, right now I've got to chase that listing because right now that's pretty important." So I went in and I dove deep, and I said, "Okay, what do I do? I have this 10-minute listing video that I did a long time ago, 5, 6 years ago, and I realized it's so out of date by now that now I do better 3D tours. I do better this, better this, better this, better this, add this, add this, add this." And so I just started going crazy on highnote.io and started diving in. We don't make a dime on affiliations, folks, but I just started diving deep on what I do. And then I went into my past listings and found examples like, hey, here's one where I took really nice photos. Here's one where I did a really nice 3D model. Here's one where I did this, that, pulled them all together. And you can string them together so that when you're going out on a listing interview, and Lee's prospecting, he texted me the other day. He's like, woo, got 5 previews today, right? Scheduled 5 previews in one day, one setting. when you're about to go on those previews, I like to soften the beach, right? And so in World War II, they would shell the German uh, artillery forces, right? Before they put all the guys up on the beach in a boat, hoping to get rid of the artillery so the guys would have a chance coming out of the boat, right? That's called softening the beach. And so I use my pre-listing package to soften the beach. The seller has all sorts of objections. They have all sorts of reasons not to hire me, right? And they're firing their artillery. And they're saying, hey, I don't want to pay a commission. I don't want to hire an agent. I don't. And so my pre-listing package is designed to get rid of as many of those objections before I even walk in the door, to sell them on me before I even walk in the door, so that when I finally do walk in the door, we can focus on what I want to be there for, which is bonding with them, finding out what's special about their home, and solving their biggest problem. Lee?
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, that's and the biggest thing, and you touched on it, Rick, is like people, especially newer agents, they don't, what you're talking about is essentially your value proposition, because when you're sending over your pre-listing packet, you are, and they may or may not even read it. I mean, you send it over and sometimes they don't even review it, but
I've got a tracking link for that for each one.
Yeah. So you can tell if they're looking at it or not. And if they're not, then you at least go in knowing that.
And it's super handy, right, folks? Because if someone's watched 4 minutes of it or 10 minutes of it or 30 minutes of it, it really helps to know how much they've gotten to know you or if they didn't get to know you at all. Because to Lee's point, how are you going to tailor your presentation when you walk in?
Right, exactly. Well, and the key that I have found is that, you have to be able to communicate your value proposition. And sometimes you have to be able to communicate it in different ways. I mean, you sometimes have 3 minutes to communicate it. You sometimes have an hour. And sometimes people will review what you send. Sometimes they won't. Every seller is different. I mean, sometimes they want to know all the intricacies of all of the technology you're using to help get their home sold. And sometimes they just want to know, like, and trust you, and that's it. And so it's just, but having that put together like Rick has, or like I have, and then being able to communicate that is probably one of your most important skills. I mean, after prospecting and setting appointments, you really need to have that ready to go in your quiver. And if you do, and you can communicate that value, that's a huge piece of the battle. Over the weekend, I was in this group that I'm a part of, like another coaching group, and somebody asked me, or asked the whole group in general. They were competing for a listing, and they were going up against a discount brokerage that you may know and love. They have giant red signs everywhere. They will remain nameless, but it's a giant discount brokerage. They advertise a 1% listing fee. And this agent who was in this group was going up against them for a listing. And you have to be able to communicate your value proposition as opposed to using a brokerage that's offering a super discounted commission, obviously. And so, what you're doing, Rick, and I think what I do is just really pile it on in terms of the technology we are using, the different things that we are doing to leverage more eyeballs on the property. And, and that's really in my market, and I know in yours, I mean, Denver's a really high end market, or it can be, so is mine. You need to be able to communicate that in a way that people can understand and appreciate. So.
And it was funny because did a number of videos over the weekend as well. And sometimes I incorporated it into the fun I was doing, and sometimes I just kind of was winging it. And good points, being able to communicate your value in 1 hour or 3 minutes when needed. Thank you, Facebook user. Not sure who that was, and good morning to the other person who was commenting. It just says Facebook user, so not sure who that is, but thank you guys and gals. So my father-in-law took me skydiving on Saturday. It was the second time I've gone, both times with him, and we were doing tandem jumps. And skydiving then is such a rush, jumping out of a plane, right? And so I made the typical joke with him. I said, hey, hey, Matt. So made the typical joke of, why jump out of a perfectly good airplane? And my father-in-law looked back at me and said, why leave a perfectly good parachute sitting on the shelf? And I was like, flip the mindset, right? Like flip the way that people are looking at things. And so all of a sudden I started saying, well, why jump out of a perfectly good home? Why would I leave a perfectly good marketing plan sitting on the shelf, right? Yeah. And Lee and I've talked to you guys about like how, the marketing plan you have and the skill set you have is such a blessing to be able to give to other people.
Yeah.
So then, the skydiving place approached me. They're like, "Hey, for $100, do you want to have someone jump with you and video you?" I was like, $100 for a video editor with a microphone? You got to be kidding me! What a bargain! So, so I said yes, and they were about to ask me all these cheesy questions about, is this your first time skydiving? I said, no, 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 no. You don't get to speak. This is my sales video now. And so go to our Facebook group, and I created kind of a spontaneous little commercial right on the spot as I was jumping in the plane. As soon as I landed, just rolling with it, right? Like, hey, why would you use me? Why would you jump out of a plane, right? Well, jumping out of your house is a leap of faith. You've got to trust in your guide. You've got to trust in your equipment, and know that the experience is going to be worth the scary part, right? And so we started dovetailing those together, and it was just kind of fun. I don't think it's not going to get me any clients, but it might make someone smile here and there.
Well, it's just like you said, Rick. I mean, it's like, I think about that every time I prospect. Is like, if you won't prospect, if you won't try to meet the seller where they are, then you are essentially depriving them of the skills you have, which is, I mean, I think a lot of people don't think about it that way. A lot of people there's such a huge fear element. They're like, oh, what if I call somebody, or what if I talk to them and they say no? What will happen then? And I think about it completely differently. I'm like, if I don't talk to them or reach out to them, I'm depriving them of what I'm going to do for them. And I'm potentially they're going to have a far more negative experience by having to, do it a different way. That's a lot more painful probably. So you need to shift your mindset and approach it that way. You're not going to have call reluctance. You're going to dive in every day ready to go.
And you'll notice, folks, we're never telling you to go in and tell someone something negative about another firm. A, because that's just a bad way to live life. B, because I think NAR ethics doesn't allow that. And C, again, just a bad way to live your life, right? So these are things you have to tell yourself. Like, if I'm saving them from somebody else, I don't tell them I'm saving them from somebody else, right? But I just go in with that mindset. Because not everybody, in our market, there are well over 20,000, could be about 27,000 licensed real estate agents. Not all of them have the same experience level, right? Not all of them have the same skill and ability, and not all of them are going to get the same results. Well, so if you want to prove yourself to be in the top 1%, you have to demonstrate that every single day.
Well, and I was also referring, not only to other agents in the marketplace, which, I mean, to your point, I mean, we are cooperating with other agents all the time. So I always try to speak as highly as I can of any other agent in the marketplace. I was kind of going more towards either selling their home by owner, or potentially getting into a deal with a buyer that they really don't understand, or doesn't go well for them, or potentially not being able to sell because they just didn't position the property correctly, and just not having a good experience with that, and having that affect the rest of their financial life, which it surely will. I mean, if they can't, position the property right to get it sold for the right price, that's going to affect potentially a lot of other things. Sometimes they're selling it to buy a business. Sometimes they're doing it for a major life change or a move or whatever it happens to be. And if you don't have the right partner in that situation, it can sometimes be really challenging. And I've experienced that even in this market. There's an idea in this market that any property will sell, and it's not really true. I mean, there's also selling the property, and there's also having a good experience during the process, which I think people do not give that enough weight. That experience that they're having in the process, and I think that's really part of what they're paying for. So
yeah, absolutely. And giving them a good experience, giving them a good outcome. I mean, those are two things you're working toward. The other thing, and right, a Facebook user, as I'm blocking Chinese and Russian comments here, it's just kind of funny. We says they're alive and waking on a Monday morning, I guess. But when the Facebook comments is when we're prospecting, we aren't trying to get all the gold, just trying to find a nugget. That's a great way of looking at it too.
Exactly.
So the other thing I did, some people are like, well, hey, I'm not good at video, or I'm afraid of video, or how do I use video? And video has a time and a place, right? There are a lot of different ways to use video. There's a long form, which is sort of becoming the mayor of your town and trying to get to know all the restaurants and all that stuff. And some of our peers teach that very, very well. We're not going to teach that here. There's another way to use video, which is to incorporate it into BombBomb and kind of give people drip feeds and stuff like that. But however you're going to use a video, and there are a lot of different ways to get yourself out there, right? But people want to know you, like you, trust you. And if they feel you via video right now, they're going to get a good feel for you. But I went out, I took a tripod with a simple cell phone holder. And I was just kind of in a mood yesterday and just drove around with this tripod sitting in the back seat. And I had a little cell phone holder, and I'd come to a nice location. I'd just stop the car, put on the hazards, get out, pop the phone in, forward cam, and rattle something off for 15, 30 seconds, right? Minute. Screwed it up, kept going, tried it again, tried it again, tried it again, tried it again. Turn it off, go to the next location. So I'm out at DIA dropping my father-in-law off. I've made a couple of recordings out there. I'm driving home, saw some horses, made a video with a horse in the background. Drove further, drove by Gilroy to the Rockies, nice Rocky Mountain architecture, stopped there. On and on and on, right? The point being, now I have, I went through last night and was just sitting down and found about 40 little 15-second clips that I liked, right? Out of those 40, I might keep about 5 to 7. But now I've got these little snippets of information. They're not perfect. They're not great. But the lighting's pretty decent. The sound's pretty decent. And guess what? My video will be out there and someone else's won't. And I'll be addressing something important that somebody else won't. And the specific reason I was recording yesterday was I have a lender who wanted to do some Facebook ads. Now, I haven't had a whole lot of luck with Facebook ads, and people have all sorts of different experiences. But me personally, just haven't had the luck. So he wanted to sponsor some Facebook ads, and you can go 50-50 and RESPA compliant and all that. But I'm like, well, if we're going to do Facebook ads, I need some content, right? And so I was making these little Facebook ads, and I was just talking about stuff, right? Why would someone want to engage with me? Why would and what it required was like a little bit of thought about why someone would want to engage with you. And I guess that's where I'm kind of going down this rabbit hole, is not only doing spontaneous video, not only doing video when you don't feel like it, not only doing something and trying and fail forward, at least you're trying to do something. But the other part of it is, why is someone hiring you? Mm-hmm. First, why do they need to hire anybody? And then why do they want to hire you?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's positioning. I mean, that is why, you are the agent of choice in this scenario. And I see it all the time. I mean, I see it where, sometimes agents have a challenging experience trying to communicate the why to the seller. And it's so important to, you have to go into the appointment believing that you are the best option, and being able to communicate why that is and what pieces of that. And I remember when I was first getting into the business, I was thinking, I mean, you hear that phrase value proposition all the time. And I was like, what in the heck is that? And then and then you dive deep on it, and you're like, that's essentially what you're going to do that is different than any other agent out there, and how you're going to do that. It's right.
And if you don't have a value proposition, take a look around the internet and try to find one you like, and then modify it to yourself, to something that's authentic to you. Mm-hmm. Right? I was trying to remember all the things I do to sell a home when I was coming up with that high note presentation. I found someone else's 47 points, and I just copied the 47 points over, and I started looking at them. I'm like, how many of these do I do? Right? And I custom wrote something for each one of those points. But I was like, and then I found someone else's list of 75. I'm like, well, I do all those things too, right? But I'm not going to put them all on this presentation. I might bore people. But the thing is, like, rip off and duplicate what works and modify it to you so that it's authentically your voice and your value, right? Mm-hmm. You can't sell something that you don't actually do, but you don't have to start with a blank slate. One of the things we do here at the Freedom System is we just say we're open book. We're going to collaborate with you. We're going to share with you. Take our words, take our materials, make them your own, because you don't have to start with a blank slate.
Exactly. Well, and that's something where I think people sometimes have this fear of like, oh, I'm going to copy someone else. And it's true. It's what you're saying. I mean, take it, make it your own, brand it to yourself, and create your own package or your own value proposition that you do for sellers. And that's something that in the beginning, it can be kind of daunting if you haven't done it before, but that's something that we can help you with. I mean, and I've sent people mine. I mean, I've sent people, I have like pitch decks, I have a resume, I have a FSBO backup plan. I have all these things that I'd be happy to share with people if they, if that's of interest to them. Just text me or call me. I'm happy to send it to you. And I mean, obviously brand it to yourself and make it your own, and, and offer some things that I don't offer. But but that's super important.
Yeah, and when I first got started in this business, folks, I failed miserably. Right, I survived despite myself because I wouldn't rip off and duplicate anybody else's stuff. I wouldn't go to a coach and ask for help. I didn't even believe in asking for anybody else's scripts because, God, by golly, I was going to do it better, right? And I failed for a long time because I didn't realize that there are only so many ways to sell a house, right? There are only so many things you can say to a home seller. And when you've gone on a couple of thousand appointments, there are only so many things they're going to say back to you. So if there are only so many things they're going to say back to you, prepare yourself for those things. And people are kind of against the idea of scripting. It's like, well, you use scripts all the time. You use scripts in your daily life. People ask you, hey, how's work, Rick? Right? And you come up with something. How's your family? You have a pretty pat answer to that, right? What'd you do this summer? You already know what you're going to say, right? You're using scripts. They're internal mind tracks and dialogues and talk tracks that you're going to use when you kind of a short way, a synopsis, or like a short way to say what you're going to say, right? You've already got it prepackaged. When we're telling you, like, hey, there are only so many objections that a seller's going to have, or a FSBO is going to have, or an expired is going to have, you might as well get comfortable with those, right? And you might as well get like, talk to Lee, talk to me, talk to somebody about what they're going to say and how to say it. Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to list with a realtor. Well, if that's your first time hearing that, you're going to be kind of taken aback. But if you realize just about everybody's going to say that on a FSBO or an expired appointment, I don't want to list with a realtor, then it's not going to take you by surprise. You're just going to go, check. They've said objection 1.
I think that's been said on, I think probably, I bet it's more than 80% of my clients said that to me initially in some different form. I mean, in varying ways. I don't want to pay a commission. I don't want to use a realtor. My family's in real estate. My daughter sells real estate. I used to have a license. I'm actually currently licensed. I mean, I've heard every objection, in that same genre that you can imagine, and I've overcome them, obviously. So, I sold 2 properties last year for people who were licensed agents in my state, who are in the business, actually doing business here in Seattle, and I still took their listing and sold it, which should tell you everything you need to know about why you should prospect, because it's kind of insane, I think, but I did. So it's one of those things. And people are like, how did you do that? And the answer is, I still prospected. I didn't assume anything. And they obviously had their own reasons for hiring me. And so, that's something where it's like, don't sell yourself short, and don't ever think that, walking into an appointment that you don't have a good solution for them, or because you do. There are things you've thought of and things that you bring to the table that they have no concept of.
Yes, Facebook users saying this house is going to sell itself, and it's been on the market for 145 days.
And I hear that a lot too. I hear that, and I see properties all the time where people go in, they take the lazy route. They don't get pro photography. They don't do video. They don't get the exposure, even though the property is fantastic and really should be selling. That's everywhere. Even in 2022, when everyone has an iPhone 13 and everyone has the ability to make video and all these things, there's just people are still kind of trying to take the easy way out and not doing those things, and it has a big effect.
Yeah, it does. Well, folks,
we kind of ended up going down the listing presentation rabbit hole today, which is fine. I mean, that's a good thing to do. So
that's a good thing to do. Mm-hmm. So hey folks, it's been a great day, great morning. We're going to let you go and start prospecting. But as always, to contact Lee, go to 206-419-8303. That's 206-419-8303. Text me. It's Rick Jansen. It's 303-589-2320. If you want to get some more free coaching, look back on our history of stuff, where we try to go into each show and talk about what we were talking about. It doesn't always happen, but sometimes does. Go back in go to TheFreedomSystem.live, not .com, .net, .org. It's .live, TheFreedomSystem.live. And just, click over to our Facebook group, join. It's a free mastermind. You can ask any question you want there. The only bad question is a question not asked. And we're just here to give you some free coaching, folks, and teach you how to get it really, truly free and avoid the commission roller coaster. I made a video on that yesterday, by the way, too. I had Elitch in the background. But anyway.
I like it. That's awesome.
When you get on a roll, you get on a roll. All right.
That's right.
Talk to you later, everybody.